Hello, hello. Hi, Kathy. How's everyone doing this morning? Where's everybody watching from? Are you having a morning, an evening, an afternoon? I am good. I am a little bit allergy today because we have a lot of wind and everything is blooming right now. So I will try to keep the sneezing to a minimum. Houston, Texas, morning in Minnesota. Nice. Early evening in England. 10 a.m. SoCal. Nice. Noon from Arkansas. Hello to everyone. So for those of you who saw the video saying I wasn't sure what I wanted to paint, officially this morning the time challenge went out by 2 votes. However, there were a ton of votes for robots, so I think instead of skipping next week's live, I think I'm just going to do a live on robots next week so that you guys can do it if you guys want. If not, then we can do something different. Hi, Peggy. So, the first thing I need your guys' help with is actually deciding the subject of today's class. I'm going to put out 3 different paintings. We've got a kind of lake type scene. We have a sunset with maybe, I might actually cut this one off right around here just because of the nature of this time challenge. I don't want to introduce way too many elements. And then we have kind of this farmland scene. So this will be 1, 2, and 3. Put your votes in the comments so we can decide. Let me actually pull those in so we can actually see all of them. One vote for 2. Let me go back into these. We got 2, 3, 2, 3, 1. Oh no. I'm losing track. 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 2, 3. So far 2 is winning by a little bit. 1 and 2. All right, I think we're gonna go with number 2. The runner-up I think was this one, but I do think this one's gonna be a ton of fun. I'm gonna go ahead and actually just cut off the bottom. So if any of you are unaware of what this class is going to be like, what we're going to do in this class is we're doing a timed challenge. So we're only going to give ourselves 20 minutes. I might keep this here just in case we want to add it in, but this is a time challenge. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to paint this same thing 3 different times. And we're going to spend about 20 minutes on the first one. I've got a timer here, so we're actually going to be timing these. And this class, unlike most of my other classes, is going to actually heavily involve the hairdryer. If you're sensitive to noise, I will be giving you a heads up before I turn it on, so that if you need to reduce the volume, you'll be able to do that. But the idea is for us to take a look at this painting and see what we can achieve at different time intervals. And in some cases, sometimes the longer formats actually end up with us overworking things, and some of the shorter formats are actually going to kind of enable us to take advantage of the watercolor and get some of those really beautiful effects and just let them be. And sometimes they're more stunning. I think on my last one I did of this, I actually liked my 10-minute one. So we'll do one at 10, we'll do one we'll do one at 20, one at 10, and then one at 5. And I think I actually liked my 10 and 5 ones the best out of all the ones we did last time. So if you are going to be following along today, you're going to need, you could do this in a sketchbook or whatever you want. I've got some 5x7 pieces of paper today. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm trying something new with the nails. Thought it was kind of fun. I don't know if anybody else watches Simply Nailogical, but she used to do these kind of like ombre gradients, and I was like, I don't know why, but I bought some makeup sponges to test some art stuff, and I was like, well, now that I have them, might as well use them for nails. Anyways, so today I've cut up some of this. This is Fabriano. This is 25% cotton. This is something really interesting that I've started to kind of observe in watercolors. A lot of watercolor papers are a mixture. They're not 100% cellulose. They're not 100% cotton. And most of the time, they just don't say anything. But this one actually does say, so that's really interesting to me. But that's what I'm going to be using today, just because it was a large enough format for me to cut into 4 equal pieces. And I'm going to start by taping these down. So if you need to do any prep, now is a good time to do any prep. And while I'm taping these down, I'm going to let you guys vote again. Do you want me to use, because I think I want to use the same palette across all 3 of these, so we're reducing the number of variables. But I'm kind of thinking either Koi for today or my palette. So you guys can let me know in the comments which one you want. Hi, Andrea. No market today? All right, let me check in the comments here. We've got Koi, mine Koi. Maybe we can get a couple more people to weigh in here. No, okay. Mine. All right, I think mine is dipping ahead just a little bit. Koi bringing it closer to tied again. I love how split the comments always are on these different things. Koi, mine. All right, I kind of think mine is just barely eking out in front, so I think that's what we're going to use for today. That is going to present some interesting challenges because my palette does not include a black, so we are going to have to mix that up. But thankfully, because the way we're going to be working on these, we're going to go in order of descending time. That does mean that we'll probably already have some mixed up so that when we are going super duper fast, we'll already be prepared. I've got the Koi out already, but I also do have my palette out, so. And the reason why I only want to use one in today's is since we're going to I like to kind of isolate the variables that we're using when we're doing little tests like this. So our variable today that we're isolating is time. And I've got the same paper, I'll use the rest of the same supplies, and that way we can just see what time does for the paintings, because different watercolors act in different ways, and so if we kind of switch it up, it might not be a fair test. Hello to Japan! We're going to be doing a time challenge where we paint this little guy 3 times at different time intervals to see kind of what it's best to edit out and what is best to spend some extra time on. The Cosmic Fun. Oh, I love that one. My favorite color from that so the Cosmic Fun palette is one where I made all the colors, and my favorite color is called Space Algae, and it's this like really kind of cool green, foresty green color, but then it has this blue metallic in it, and so it kind of shifts between the 2 colors. The green is not a metallic, but the blue is, and it kind of, if you use a really textured paper, the metallic kind of settles into it, so you can get some really interesting effects. So these are, I always save whenever I get to the very end of a sketchbook. You can see this one was one of my Canson ones. I just save it, and then these ones I cut in half so that I have a little more room, just because, especially on live, I have to condense what I'm using here. And let's just get these kind of stacked up and ready to go. We'll start with this one. This is going to be our 20-minute one, so let me find a Sharpie so I can note that. I swear I have like 20 Sharpies somewhere in this room and I can never find any of them. All right, adapt. These are 5 by 7 inches. So if you looked at my hand, it's about kind of the size of, it's about as tall as that corner that can make. I'm just gonna do this so I can write with pencil on here. Yeah, Sharpies are always shy. So this one's gonna be our 20-minute one. Okay, so there's a question on using tubes. Any tips on which colors to start with? So that's a second thing we can consider doing. I've been doing some 3-color challenges. I don't know if I want to limit it to 3 colors, but do you guys want me to work with a limited color palette and maybe only use 5 of the colors? Maybe, I don't know, let me know. Let me see if I can get this where you guys can see the time. Maybe. How am I going to do this? Do I need to wear it so we can check? 1 vote for limited, 1 for not. Okay. I don't know. Oh, I bought this cute little shopping cart. Maybe I can put it on this. Maybe that will help us see. Maybe. All right, I think we're saying limited. All right, so let's limit our colors. Let's be a little bit methodical on this just because we are limited in everything we're doing today. So I'm going to need some blue, obviously. And I think I want to use, one of my favorite blues to use for things is a phthalo blue. So I'm going to grab, this is in my palette, this is blue raspberry, but it is similar to a phthalo blue. I'm actually going to pull these out so we'll be able to try to keep track of them a little better. And then, so I'm going to use 5. Then let's grab, this one is called Watermelon Sugar. It's kind of like a rose type color. Oh, I've obviously gotten quite messy in this palette and it does not want to. Maybe I'll just tape off the other ones. So I'm going to say no to the Blueberry Muffin and the violet color, which is Grape Jelly. I'm going to say no to the bubblegum color. So for 5, I want to have a green, blue, a green, a pink. 1, 2, 3. Okay, let's go there. So I'm doing, all right. You can use whatever palette you want to or whatever tubes you have. In my palette, the colors we're going to be using are Blue Raspberry, which is like a phthalo blue. We're going to use Key Lime Pie, which is like a yellow-green color. We're going to use Watermelon Sugar, which is like a rose color. And then this is Candy Apple, which is like a kind of basic red color. And then let's add in a yellow as well. And this one is, Corn on the Cob. Why can I not remember right now? But this is kind of like a medium yellow color. And yes, this is a photograph. Let's see if I can get everything in frame. I think actually the shopping cart is not going to work for me because it's going to get in the way. Here, I've got a pencil sharpener that I can put it around. Okay, I promise we're going to get started soon. And for those of you who weren't here at the very beginning, the votes were so split on the voting for what we were going to paint today that I think I'm going to add in an extra live next week, and we will do the cute little robots together. It'll probably be a little shorter of a challenge or of a painting session because they don't take that long, but it'll be fun. All right, I'm taping it down. You don't have to if you don't prefer to do that. That's totally fine. Other than that, the other supplies I'm going to use is I've got a rag here. and I've got a size 12 round brush, and then I've got 2 cups of water. And I'm also going to quickly take my spray bottle. If you don't have a spray bottle, you can use your brush or a pipette. And I'm just going to re-wet all of these colors because we need these to wet for a minute to kind of chill out. If you don't feel like doing a limited palette, that's totally fine. You don't have to, but I'm going to do one today just to kind of add a little extra challenge. All right, as a quick reminder for anybody who's just joining, we're painting this 3 different times in descending time intervals. The first one's gonna be at 20 minutes, second one will be at 10 minutes, and the final one will be at 5 minutes. This is so that we can see where we want to work a lot and where we don't want to overwork things. So first thing I'm gonna need to do, I'm gonna talk through this before we get started on this, is I'm going to do my background color. So this needs to be kind of a nice light blue into kind of a clearish wash and then into some nice reds and oranges right here. Can't see the far right. Okay. Let's see. I can move this way a little bit. I don't know why it's so hard for me to get everything all centered. There we go. I think that's a little better. It's not entirely centered, but I think it'll be a little better. So I'm actually going to do a loose wash. Let's do a completely wet on wet wash. So I'm just going to take clean water. I'm gonna wash my brush to make sure I don't have anything in there. And I'm gonna coat this whole thing in just some water. So just really put a bunch of water down. We're gonna work wet on wet for this first wash. Oh, I gotta start the timer. Otherwise it's not fair. Okay, this is our 20-minute one. All right, I'm wetting the whole thing. If you've never worked wet on wet before, so a lot of you have, I'm getting some paint from my actual cup here. That's all right. We'll be going over this with a bunch of stuff. I recognize a lot of you guys. I know a lot of you guys have done a bunch of these different techniques, but my classes are supposed to be for beginners too. So if you have never worked wet on wet, what we want to do is wet the whole page evenly. And then we want to find a light source so that we can find the reflection. What you're looking for on most wet on wet ones is you want a nice kind of shine, but you want to be able to see the texture through. If you've got a bunch of standing water on it, it'll just be shiny. You're not going to be able to see the texture of the paper, and you're going to have absolutely no control over what's going to happen on the page. I'm in Colorado, so one of the things I often do is I will do a wet wash first while I'm mixing up my colors. It'll kind of soak in, and then I will probably go back in and touch up a few areas in just a second so I get a nice even wash. So what I need to do here is I'm going to mix up a nice light blue color. So I'm just going to start by putting some clear water in this one. I'm going to take a little bit of this phthalo blue type color and mix that in. We don't need too much, but let's get a quick check on that. We've got a little tester strip. That'll be kind of nice, although I want to warm that up. This is a pretty cool color, so I'm going to bring in just a little bit of this kind of pink color into there. And I've got maybe a little bit too much, so I'm going to try to control that by tapping that on down here. I'm just trying to warm this color up just a teeny amount. And there we go. That'll be a beautiful color for up here. Now we've already put a little bit of that pink here, which is perfect because I need to make a really beautiful kind of orangey type color here. For this one, I'm going to mix in a bit of this watermelon sugar. I'm going to bring in some of that candy apple. Maybe a little bit more of each of those. Good morning, good morning. Yeah, and if you are a beginner or if you're not and you've got questions, feel free to ask in the comments. I know sometimes it's hard for me while I'm painting to actually keep track of them, but I do try to backtrack and answer as many questions as I can. And that's pretty nice, but I think I want it to be a little bit warmer or a little bit more pink and vibrant, so I'm going to add in a little more of both of those watermelon sugar and that candy apple. So it's kind of like it's a red and then like a rose type color. And that looks like that'll be pretty nice. Now, one other thing is we are working wet on wet, so these colors are going to be even more diluted when we put them on there because they're already going to be mixing with water on the page. If you're brand new, I've got 2 cups of water over to the side here. One is going to be for washing my brush when it's dirty, and the other one's going to be for dipping into to do things like this, where I'm going to go back to this. I've already pre-wet it, but I just need to make sure it's a little bit more wet, so I'm just going to do a really light wash on top of this because I was doing some other stuff. Just going to re-wet this. I don't want standing water. But even if you do have some standing water, like you'll learn something from this. So if you've got too much water, you can always tap your brush off on your paper towel or whatever rag you're using, and then you can just use your brush to suck up that extra water. So I'm going to start by placing my blue up in this corner, and I'm going to concentrate this here on this side. And because I want this to kind of fade, I'm going to bring in just some extra water and just soften the edge. Maybe tap in a little bit more if I want more concentration over in this corner. And I think I do want this to come across a little bit more. I want this to be a little bit asymmetrical because it is in the photo. And just soften down. Then I'm going to wash my brush, tap it off, and grab some of this really nice color here, and I'm just going to place this kind of in the center. We're working wet on wet, so this is a little more forgiving. So we can place that there, wash our brush, and then just soften the edges out. If we need to, we can pick up some of that extra color here, drop in some extra water, and just soften. The way we're going to frame these mountains, this doesn't need to look perfect because the way we'll frame the mountains or the whatever, I don't know if they're kind of like mesas, but not quite. We'll be able to hide some of the wonkiness on the sides and things like that. So we just want to get kind of a nice glow in the center here. Okay, we're already 6 minutes in, so I'm going to mix up some darker blue colors for this first layer of mountains while this soaks in and kind of lets it do its own thing for a second before I then will hair dry this. So I'm going to actually use this as a base for my first blue. I'm just going to grab a lot more of that blue color here. And let's just check on it. That's quite blue. Maybe a little bit too dark for this, so I'm going to add in a little more water. And the other thing is I want to mute this color, so I'm going to use the color that's kind of on the opposite side of the color wheel, which is orange. I'm going to take a little red over in this side, a little of that yellow to make an orange, and then I'm going to kind of tap my brush off because I don't want to add in too much at a time. And mix that in. Because this is a phthalo blue, it leans more towards the green side, so you might need to lean a little bit more towards the red side. A reddish type orange is what's going to really help it not turn kind of green. And that looks a lot nicer, but I'm going to add in just a little more of that red because I see a little bit more warmth to that color. And I like that one. Okay, so I'm going to use the hair dryer now. So if you are sensitive to noise, feel free to turn the volume down for about 30 seconds and let me grab it. And it will be happening in 3, 2, 1. All right, that is mostly dry. I think I'll be okay. What we want to do here, I've got a couple questions here. You've got mud. You probably just added in too much. You're going to need to counteract with the blue again. And that's why I like to, when I mix up other colors, I kind of tap them off so I can add in little amounts. It's easy to do. So if you did that, you are not alone. And that's just one of those things that you're going to kind of have to learn how to add in specific amounts. We are remaking this image up here, except for we will be taking some liberties with it. My nails do kind of match the picture. That's funny. All right, so what we're going to do now is I've got this color that I made previously. This is going to be the layer for that background layer of mountains. And I feel like it's a little too dark. I'm just going to add in a little more water. Just a little bit more. It doesn't need to be perfect. All right, so these I'm not going to do exactly, but I'm going to kind of do a flat mound down with a nice kind of cutoff here and then sloping down there. And I want to kind of frame this area. We want the gap to be where we put that nice bright spot. So I'm going to bring this up about a third of the way. I'm going to use the rule of thirds to help me kind of frame this picture. And now I need to start this drop off and bring it in. I'm going to fill in this area here. Then I'm going to wash my brush and I'm just going to soften this all the way down to the bottom of the page. Is this perfect? No. Will it work? Yes. Yes, I taped over some just so that I'm not tempted. We're working on a limited color palette. You don't have to. If you don't feel like working on a limited color palette and you're like, the time challenge is enough for me, that's totally fine. I've just been having fun with them, so that's what I'm going to do. All right, we're about halfway through. I need to add in these ones over here. Just going to kind of mimic them. Let's see if I can do this. This one's going to come up a little bit higher. Boop. Boop. Oh, all right. I got to make some selective edits here because otherwise I'm not going to be able to frame. And fill that area in. And then wash my brush and soften down. Okay, now that is not exactly like what we see, but it's going to be close enough to kind of give us the same feeling. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a little hint of this. So again, I need to dry this again. So if you are sensitive to noise, please reduce the volume because we're going warp speed ahead here with the hairdryer in 3, 2, 1. All right, so I want to point out one thing that's happening here. Now, part of what's happening is because I am forcing this to dry really fast. See, I'm getting some back runs here. One, I don't really care because a lot of that's going to be covered up, and sometimes they're really pretty in paintings like this, but it's because the paper is drying at different intervals. It was way more wet here, and also then wet down here, and right along this area, it was starting to dry. And that's what's happening. So a lot of times you want to let some of this set naturally, but we don't have time for that today, and that's okay. I'm just going to hint to this little one over here using that same color because just by layering that same color on top, I'll be able to get a little bit of darkening here. Again, I'm going to place that down and then just soften. I don't want that to be too obvious. It'll settle down just a little bit. And next, it's time for us to do that first layer of trees. They are a darker color than this one here. but they're not as dark as some of the things that come towards the foreground. We've got about 7 minutes left in this challenge, so we need to be really smart on how we do this. One of the things we want to look at today is we are using something called atmospheric perspective, where things that are further away are a little bit lighter in color, so we will be darkening things as they get closer to us. Yes, thank you for the time check. All right, so let's darken this color. I'm going to grab more of that blue raspberry or phthalo blue type color. Oh, good news, guys. If you're running low on blue raspberry or blueberry muffin, I actually bought more. And so you can actually get just a refill of those. I just uploaded those two to my website, by the way, because I know that they're the colors that I'm running out of the fastest in this palette. I'm going to mute this just a little bit, grabbing a little bit of that orange that I'd made over here. Don't need too much. Yeah, Sonny, I knew for a second when the order came, I panicked and I thought I didn't have any of the blueberry muffin because I think that's the one that you're running out of. And I was like, oh no, but no, it did come, so that's good. Maybe a little bit darker on both of those. Uh-oh, I feel an allergy sneeze coming on. All right, I think that will be a lovely color for those trees. So we're gonna do a couple things here. You can make these more or less complicated depending on what, but I don't have a ton of time. So I'm just going to take advantage of the shape of my brush. I'm gonna hold it vertically and I'm just going to tap it up and down here. And I might squiggle a little bit at the tops if I feel like kind of varying or stipple. But we don't need to get too complicated. I want to bring that up here and across. So this was already dry, except for, well, I talked enough to where that was dry enough there. We're just kind of hinting to this happening here. Let's put in a little more saturation towards the bottom of these. Just a little bit more, and then I am going to soften just the very bottom of these here. Notice there's variation, so these do not need to be totally perfect. And because I squiggled over there, I feel like I gotta stipple a little bit in some areas at least. I don't really have time for this. Why did I do that? I don't, this challenge is like kind of stressful, but it's so much fun. All right, I'm gonna leave that layer there. And again, I'm going to need to use the hairdryer. We have 3.5 minutes, oh goodness. Hairdryer is coming on in 3, 2, 1. All right, I just blew away my reference photo, so I gotta find that, and I'm gonna give myself an extra like 30 seconds on the clock because I have to find this thing. Ugh. All right. I should have foreseen that happening. All right, now what I need to do is darken this color one more time. Again, see, I didn't quite dry over there and I had some standing water. I'm getting a back run there, but I actually want to darken this and I want to start adding some green. So I'm going to add in more of that blue raspberry. I'm going to add in some of that green. A little more. Got 2 minutes. I can do this. We can do this. Let's add in a little red just to mute it just a teeny bit. And let's just check. A little more green. A little more red. All right, we're gonna have to go with whatever this is because I'm running out of time. One of the things it has here is just kind of this feature in the front. So I'm just going to kind of, let's do a little kind of dry brushing where the brush kind of runs out like that. Going for it. Concentrate a little more color maybe even a little more, dip right into that green in a couple areas just to give a little variation. Dry my brush and then just brush and get some of that nice texture that's happening naturally in that paper. And then I'm going to add in some trees. The way I'm going to add in the trees is I'm just going to, we're just kind of having to modify this a bit, but I'm just going to make a stroke and then I'm just going to stipple my brush down and get a little whiter as I go. I have 1 minute on the timer, but I am going to give myself an extra 30 seconds since I did drop that reference photo. I'm cheating. I'm a big cheater. There we go. Let's add in some different trees. Maybe this one comes down a little bit more. And then once we finish this one, we're going to need to make a plan. We need an action plan for our shorter ones for sure. I'm just adding these in. I've got 1 more minute. If you are putting questions in the comments, I will address. I've got hyper focus here, so I will address those in a second. I'm going to soften the bottoms of these just so they don't look quite so funny. Let's put some little ones that are a little farther away, a little lighter. Just kind of fill in the gaps here. Just a little bit. I want there to be some open spaces in this, but and let's add in a couple more here. I've got 10 seconds. Oh, I can get this one tree in. All right. Soften the bottom. And that is time on this. All right. So let me check on the comments real quick. Happy little trees. Don't need to re-wet. No, do not need to re-wet the page after the beginning. You could take another 10. I mean, I am tempted because I feel like I could improve this more, but I think for the sake of today's exercise, we gotta keep pressing on. Yeah, I went over by 9 seconds. All right, so here is our 20-minute creation. I actually really quite like this little painting. I think it's super cute. Our previous one that we did didn't have quite as many elements. One of the things that is, you know, when I'm choosing reference photos, I do try to keep things that are going to be in layers that are fairly simple when we're doing these things. But this one is a little more complex than some of the other ones. That is also why I did cut off that bottom part, because I was like, we can't have another element. So when you are selecting, if you are looking to do some painting on your own and you're looking at reference photos, by the way, this photo is from Unsplash. They're a royalty-free reference photo company. So they're a really good resource to actually search through. But when you're searching, especially when you're brand new, you want to kind of look at things that are framed with some simplicity. So where you can actually break down individual elements or maybe simplify things. Sometimes we have these really beautiful photos and then there's just a ton of like grass or really intricate branch work in the foreground. And that's going to set you up for failure if you're brand new to painting, is something that just has a ton of detail here and here and here, because you're not going to have a good focus and you're going to get really frustrated. So look for some simplicity. All right, so that was quick, but we're gonna get quicker. I'm gonna set this one to the side, or actually I'm gonna move it here for just a second, because before we start on the next one, because the next one is half the time. So what can we do to reduce the amount of time that we are spending on this? Because, oh boy, that was a challenge. That was, I almost didn't even make it through that one. we can do a couple things, actually. You're afraid of your paint set? Oh no. 10 minutes. Yes, we can have all their colors ready, which is going to be really crucial. And maybe I'll do a little less mixing too. So let's actually do a little cheating here, and let's mix up a blue color here. Let's mix up at least this layer of blue for the first layer of mountains that we can just kind of slightly darken as we go. And we'll also be able to dilute it a bit and add it to the sky. We're actually, I think, going to do the sky maybe last on this one instead. So I'm going to put a little water here. This paper is Fabriano paper. I'm going to grab some of that blue. And just a little bit of that red color. And I think that will do for my first layer of mountains, maybe a little more. I lied. All right, so here is the plan. Rather than wetting the whole thing, because that does add time, including drying time, we're not going to get as smooth of a transition, but I'm actually planning to put the sky in last. This is going to add a bit of a challenge, but it does mean I can be methodical. So if I add the sky in last instead of doing this whole nice kind of gradient type thing down, which means then I have to let it dry. If I add this layer in first, and then I'll add this one after I dry, and this one, then by the time I get back, I won't have to take the time to dry because everything will be dry enough, and I can kind of add the sky in as I go. So that's going to be one big difference. The other thing is I probably will need to simplify some of these trees. We will wait and see with the time. So let me get this back. How do I reset this again? No. There we go. Are we ready to start the 10-minute one, or do you guys want me to wait for a second? Let me know in the comments, because we can wait for just a second and I can answer some questions or something. So there's somebody here saying beach, horizon, easier transition, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, that's a good point in here is if you want to start editing things, this can be whatever landscape you want it to be. It doesn't need to be exactly this. You could kind of modify things if you're like, this next layer would be way easier as this. Ready, ready, ready. All right, everybody's ready. Got my brush ready, and we're going to start with these mountains as the first layer. Ready, set, go. And I'm just going to put these in. Don't knock over. All right, so this one is going to come down, up, and then straight down before it kind of wobbles down. It just wobbles right around. Soften this again right at the bottom. Probably don't need to soften all the way down. I'm also going to make sure I suck up this extra water here because that was causing some extra problems last time. And then let's add in these up here. So these ones shoot straight out, down, up, down, down, and down. There we go. Let's fill that in. And let's also just soften right down. I'm gonna grab any of that extra pigment here. I'm going to grab my hairdryer because I need to add in that second little layer there. So if you're sensitive to noise, hairdryer is coming in 3, 2, 1. Okay. Almost had that one blow away again. And I'm just going to hint to this little thing here. Soften down. I saw somebody say this was their first one ever and it wasn't so good. Keep it, because you're going to be surprised when you go back. You're going to be like, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was. All right, we need to darken this for the trees. So I'm going to bump this up. I'm going to grab a bunch of that blue raspberry. I should tape that. That would make a lot of sense. If I get a second, I will do that. That could be pretty good. I think I'm going to add in a little bit of green to this just because. Why not? Ooh, I like that for the background tree color. And now I'm just going to start tapping straight up and down. This is still a little wet over here, so I'm going to start in this direction. You might need to take a second to dry. I'm going to risk it. I'm going to risk that by the time I get over here, it'll be just fine. So I'm just going to tap up and down just to make those little treetops. Right at the bottom. Oh, I don't know. This might backfire as I get over here. We'll see. Nope. Oh, maybe. No, actually, I think it's going to be okay. Woohoo. And that's where we're starting to get a little too wet right there. You can see the difference. But that's okay. When you guys see me make little mistakes like that, maybe it helps. I think it actually does help. I'm going to go back and just soften the bottom right like that, just so we don't have a harsh bottom to this. And I'm going to use the hairdryer again to dry this layer. This is going to be coming on in 3, 2, 1. Okay, and all right, we're actually doing way better on time on this one so far. We'll see if we keep that trend up. Here we go, taping that down for the very smart person who suggested that. And can't believe I didn't think of that. I've already got my green type color for the foreground, so if we want, we can start with a little bit of that dry brushing. My plan for this is to simplify it a bit. I'm going to dry brush, and then I'm going to do the exact same thing I did in this layer just to kind of show that they're getting a little bit closer. So for the dry brushing, we're halfway through our time. For the dry brushing, all I'm going to do is I fill this up with some, but not a ton, and then I'm just going to kind of brush across, and it's very light touch. You don't have to do this part if you don't want to. I might add in a little water to encourage some blooms just for some interest. And then I'm going to take that same color and let's start the tapping process here. I'm going to kind of try to vary the hills and things that were there just to give something a little interesting that might be happening. Maybe it just peters off right there. I wonder where that expression comes from, peters off. And before, I want to keep this area a little dry. I'm going to put a little more color there just to kind of emphasize that bit of kind of like a horizon line. I feel like you can tell when I start to focus because I don't talk as much. And then I'm just going to take some of this blue raspberry in my brush, and then on this dry area, I'm just going to kind of fill that in, and I'm just going to concentrate that kind of at the bottom here, just to give a little more definition. And then maybe let's bring in just a little bit of that into the foreground. I'm gonna wet my brush just a bit, just to kind of dilute that just a teeny bit, just to kind of bring some of that color in throughout. I like that. Okay, now our last step, I'm going to wash my brush. I'm gonna flip this upside down. Wash my brush really good because I don't want any of that blue in there. And I'm going to wet. I'm going to be a little careful where we wet. I'm going to aim for not touching it. I can always add more water and then actually touch it. I'm going to wet this whole area. Oh, I touched it. That's okay. That's okay. Monica, you are always so helpful in the comments. I really appreciate that. And yeah, if you can't get my brush, because I do not ship internationally, I'm sorry, I keep looking into it and it just keeps getting more and more complicated with like taxes and things. And I am one person, so, but if you can't, you just want to look for a round brush that has a really nice tip, and I like to use about a size 12. This goes for anybody, you know, I enjoy you guys spending the time with me. You do not have to buy my supplies. I like my supplies, but please don't feel like you have to. And now I'm just going to take this color where I already pre-wet this area, and I'm just going to kind of tap it in. If I need to, I can kind of edit just a little bit as I go. I'm going to wash my brush, and I'm just going to soften this top part. Maybe grab a little bit of that extra pigment because it's kind of pooling there. And then soften the top again. And I'm going to bring a little bit of this blue right in here. This is already a little wet. We're just going to kind of add in a little blue. I'm going to flip this back this way because it was starting to kind of spread. And let's soften just a bit. I've got 30 seconds. 30 seconds remaining. I'm just going to kind of clean up a couple of these little edges. And it's okay they don't touch because it kind of then looks like a little bit of glow coming from it. Okay, 10 seconds. How am I less stressed on this one with less time? This doesn't make any sense. Okay, and done. Let me check back in on the things. You should definitely get your paints out of storage. For sure. Okay, let's do a quick comparison between our 10 and our 20-minute one. You can tell, now, this did save a lot of time doing it this way, where we painted the sky last, but this is one thing that I would probably not edit out if I were not in a time challenge, because notice how the glow that everything is layered on kind of emanates, and then it does that natural lighting for us. Like when you look at a sunset or whatever, that color is kind of reflected in some ways on whatever it's hitting around it, and this does it for us. So that's probably not something that I would choose to selectively edit out, but the rest of it, I'm not sure is that much different. You know, I mean, it is because of the way things are layered, But other than that, I don't know how much I would change. Maybe I would add in 1 or 2 trees to this one. What do you guys think? You just realized I have a website to buy supplies. Yes, yes, I do. All right. So that's a really interesting kind of observation. I don't know. I actually like this foreground here better. I think it would be good for a couple trees to be added in the foreground, but I really like how I kind of brought some of this color into the foreground. That's another thing that the time pressure when I was just trying to make things look good helped me kind of make that decision. Okay, we got a 5-minute one going. So do you guys have any thoughts? What should we focus on? What are we sacrificing? What do we sacrifice in this one to do a 5-minute one? What do I think is better, watercolor tubes or pans? It really depends on what you like. I started mainly working with the tubes, and I still really love working with tubes. You can get better saturation of colors, but I kind of struggle with them because there's a lot of variation in quality in the tubes, whereas the pan paints, it's a lot more kind of this, and then also storage is easier and they're less messy. All right, so some of the thoughts are wet the top half of the page. Yeah, we could do that. We could take out this second little mountain thing. Let's just take a quick look. So if I cover that up, does that negatively impact the painting? Not really. So maybe that's a good one. I like the idea of focusing on the shapes more of. And making it a little more abstracted. Eliminate the sun. Eliminate nothing. Hyperfocus away. We might be able to. All right, I'm gonna step away from the camera for just 1 second because I gotta blow my nose because I've been trying to hold the sneeze in and it is not working out well. Stupid allergies. Okay. Single layer of trees, maybe same color but deeper levels, 1 row of trees instead of 2. Okay, so we can do a couple things that will selectively help us here. One thing we could do is we could kind of cut the painting here if we wanted to, or we can just, yeah, I think maybe 1 layer of trees might be a good idea. I think we should try to fit the sun in. I don't know if we're going to be able to, but I'm kind of thinking I want to work a little bit fast and loose with this. So, you know what I'm going to eliminate? I'm going to eliminate this little blue up here because I don't know how much that actually adds. I think what I'm going to do is we're going to start by, without pre-wetting, I'm just going to place some of this down and then I'm going to wet my brush and try to soften all around. I will then dry and then I will quickly add in these. Then I will bring in some of this green for that layer and then dry brush and bring some of that blue into the foreground. So that's my general plan. I want to prep a couple of these colors first. So I still have enough of the sun type color here. I need more of this blue. And I need some of this green. Eliminate the sun, it does take most of the time, but I do think that is what kind of makes the painting. I do tend to agree. So I'm gonna do my best. I think we can do it. I think we can. And that blind faith in that is what's going to help us. All right, that's a nice blue color. I've got enough of that. I need to mix up more of this green color though. Get some of that key lime pie lemony yellow color. So one of the suggestions is try spraying the canvas or the paper. We could do that, but it's going to be harder to control, and it might actually saturate it a little bit too much. So I think I'm going to avoid that. I'm actually not going to pre-wet so that it's not double wet, basically. I just want this to be really concentrated right off the bat, so I'm just putting in a bunch of that blue, a bunch of that green, and then I am going to mute that color just a little bit because it's a little too vibrant for me. If you don't like muted colors, then keep it that way. It will look nice. I just like to, I want the focus of the color to be kind of on this, and if you have too many super duper bright colors, they all kind of compete for attention if you're not super careful in the way you place them. The master of placing super bright colors next to each other is Andrea, if you want to see some of her rainbow colored animals. She is able to do that in a way where it doesn't compete, but this in this painting here, it's not kind of complex enough, and I think we need to, if we mute that, it'll make that color stand out more. The sun sounds very apocalyptic. All right, I'm gonna also make sure I have my hairdryer handy, because we are gonna need it. We already taped that down. I'm going to, let's note that this is the 5-minute one, just to give you guys another second in case you are doing any sort of prep to do this one with me. Who is scared of the 5-minute challenge? Let me know. We got this? Good. All right, I like this. You're scared of me. Yes, you should definitely do this the next time. I'm sorry to hear about your back. We paint together usually every other week. Next week I am going to add in an extra class just because so many people also wanted the robots, and they're fun to paint. It'll probably be a shorter class though. But yeah. All right, we're ready for the 5-minute challenge. I will do my best to kind of narrate what I'm doing, but it probably won't be super duper eloquent, as seen by even that sentence there. Who is ready to go? The green, it was the phthalo blue, the light green, and then a little bit of red. Are we ready to go? Ready? Ready? Okay, let me reset this. Got my brush, and we're gonna go in 3, 2, 1. Oh no! Oh no. All right, I get to add on 6 seconds at the very end. I'm just going to put some of this here. I'm going to place that in the center, wash the brush really quick, and soften around. Let's put a little more in. Soften, soften, soften. All the way out, and I'm gonna dry. Hair dryer is coming on in 3, 2, 1. Okay, that's gonna have to be good enough. Go in with the blue layers. First layer of mountains, or what do we call these? Because they're not quite. Soften. Soften, soften, soften. Other side. This one goes up, down, down. Soften down. And I'm going to be using the hair dryer again in 3, 2, 1. Okay, this is actually going a lot faster than I had anticipated, so let's go ahead. I am going to add in this little guy here. Doot, doot, doot. Just a little bit. Swipe it. Now we're going to go in with this. Oh my gosh, I have time. It's only been 2 minutes. I'm going to darken this blue here. Who would have thought I would have extra time? I'm going to tap in. Tap, tap, tap in. Soften really quick at the bottom there. Tap in. Soften. Check it out. Okay, I'm gonna dry again in 3, 2, 1. Okay, we got 1 minute and 45 seconds, and all I need to add in is this greenery. I cannot believe how much better this one is going. Tapping. Tap, 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 tap. Ooh, let's eclipse. These instructions are getting less specific as we go along. Just tapping. Let's make this one just go all the way down. Tap, tap. Tapping to fill. Let's add in a bit of a horizon line. Oh, it's a crooked one. It's a crooked one. Adding that in. Let's do a dry swipe. And then let's bring in some of this blue. I have a whole minute left. I've got a whole minute left. I cannot believe how this one worked out. I have 30 seconds to spare. That was a 4-minute and 30-second painting. And that one was way better than the 10-minute one. Big tree in foreground. I don't, I'd have to dry. I'm calling it good. I'm calling it good. All right, so let's actually review this. I'm going to set all the other supplies to the side. That is 5 minutes for you guys there, if you were doing that. Stupid nose, stupid allergies. Hopefully next week it'll be less sneezy. My eyes are watering. All right, here's the 5-minute. Somehow it's better than our 10-minute. And here is the 20-minute one. I do have to say, I love these time challenges. They are a little bit of stress just because you do have such limitations. But I'm going to kick the 10-minute one out of here because it was like not enough time to do anything spectacular, but too much time to like really force myself. And let's really take a look at these two. What we were able to do. I was still able to get that lovely glow kind of from that color. I do think it would be helped to have a little bit of that blue coming up from the top a little bit. And I do like these. I would like to have these darkened a little bit if I'd had a little more time, but I really overthought that. The other thing that is kind of good about this one is if you take a look at it, it is more evenly split into those third proportions. Not exactly, but there is some extra kind of dimension there. Although this one is too. We've got about a third here, a third here, third here, third here. Oh my goodness. Sorry about that. Makes up for my cheating time, yes. I did cheat by just a few seconds on one of them. I don't know. What do you guys think? Which one is your guys' favorite? I tend to think this one still might be my favorite, but it's like barely more my favorite than this one. Like not enough to account for that extra time. What is your guys' favorite one that we did today? The 5-minute one? 10-minute one? Yeah. Tell me also which one is the best that you did today. All three? Tell me both of yours and mine. 20-minute with the trees, 5-minute for sure. Prefer the sun and the 10-minute one. It does there is something to be said for this. I mean, I like the glow, but there is something when you do leave space and paint it separately where it does kind of look like the true light is kind of shining from there. You ate lunch and drove. Oh, no. Well, either way, I really appreciate you guys doing this with me. If you weren't able to actually do this, as long as TikTok saves this, I do upload it to YouTube. I usually do it either today or like on a Sunday, just kind of depending on what my schedule is like. I have to build a fence today after this, which is going to be wonderful for my allergies to be out in the wind. But, you know, got to do it. So I might not be able to upload these till tomorrow. Either that, I'm going to schedule after this one, though. I will be scheduling that robot live. If you guys want like a little break from seriousness and trying to produce things exactly and perfectly, let me find one of the robots to show you. You've been wire wrapping? Hey, I love beads, man. I used to be the bead queen. But we're going to paint these just like kind of silly little fun robots and play with some pen details. Oh my goodness. My nose needs to calm down. It'll be again next Saturday at 11 a.m. Mountain Time. I think that is 10 Pacific and 1 Eastern. Yeah, we can pull I can pull the tape off for you guys. This is washi tape. It probably won't rip these, so I'll just kind of pull it at an angle and be okay. You can also use a hairdryer to heat the tape up if you're worried about it, and it will help. And I'll make little notes on the backs of these. I'm checking on the comments. There you go. I can't believe this is the 5-minute one. I'm kind of proud of this one. It's the 30th today, right? I think. All right. This is the 10-minute. Yeah, I hear that a lot that people push it on their clothing. I've done some testing on that, and I think it kind of depends. One, it makes it so the edges aren't as crisp, especially if you have pets. Because if you put it on your clothing, more than likely you've got a little pet hair on there, even if you don't think. And it can kind of let some trap. But it does help for sure. It does help. But you won't get as crisp of lines like right here. But the key thing to art is finding what works for you. So keep in mind, anytime I give you guys advice, it's my opinion on the advice. It's kind of what I've tested, what works for me. If you find something that works better for you, I do not Do not judge you for that at all. This is the 10-minute. I've been trying to be better about keeping kind of track of these different paintings and things and cataloging them, so if we need to look back at any of these. And this was the 20-minute one. So for the robots, I actually use the Viviva color sheets just because they're so vibrant, but you could use anyone you want. All right, I am going to sign off. Thank you for everybody joining me today, and I hope that you had fun, and I hope you learned something from this. Sometimes just the forced practice of doing something a couple different times is going to give you some information that you didn't have before. So I really, really appreciate... so it'll be 11 a.m. and it's right now here it is 12:13. So yeah, I'm in mountain time. Thank you so much, and I hope everybody has an absolutely fabulous day, and I will see you guys next week.